A very warm welcome to This World Game Changers podcast, where your host, Paul D. Lowe, embraces many crucial conversations that compassionately contribute towards creating a better life and world. Paul's intention is very simple: to help get people's inspirational insights and motivational messages out into the world so others may benefit.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to this World Game Changers podcast episode. A returning guest today, Rebecca Wheele, based in the south of England. Rebecca, a very warm welcome to you, Mom.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Notice the American influence there, listeners, Mom. And Rebecca is an English lady. But anyway, I waffle, I digress. Nothing new there, I hear you shout. So what we thought we'd talk about today, listeners, and Rebecca and I, and you've heard me say this so many times when introducing an episode, is we haven't got a clue. But that really reinforces the gentle art of conversation, that dance that takes place between people. You know, how many times have we used the example of, you know, people standing in a bus queue or in a bank queue or shopping queue, whatever, and just striking up a conversation and making that connection. And it's so powerful. You know, the actual content of what you speak about in many respects is secondary. It's just that connection with a fellow human being. So that's kind of where Rebecca and I have landed on this. So I suppose without further ado, Rebecca, what are you going to talk about? No pressure, but what are you going to talk about?
Well, as you were speaking there, something kind of came to my mind. And really the essence of this is being in the moment, I feel.
Yeah.
You know, really being immersed in the moment, because even, you know, in this time when you're connecting with someone, you're having a conversation, you're talking, I notice myself a lot of the time in life, kind of my mind sometimes, you know, can't help to wander to, oh, I've got this thing to do, or, oh, you know, I've got this person to email back, or, oh, what am I going to do about this problem that I've got tomorrow? And I feel a lot of the time we miss actually the kind of real possibility for a deeper connection in that moment, because we're, you know, the mind is likes to really wander and you know, it can, if we're not aware of it, it can distract us from being in that moment. So that's something I notice with myself a lot, that I'm really trying to focus on, to be really immersed in that moment, you know.
It is the distraction, the noise, the clutter that takes us away, though, isn't it? And, you know, the way the mind, I mean, the mind is an absolute hive of activity. There's always something going off there. You know, a new shiny penny to the left, a new shiny penny to the right, a noise to the left, a noise to the right. It's just non-stop. So I want to kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate here, Rebecca, and say, you know, you're asking me to be present, but you don't understand. You know, I've got a gas bill that I haven't paid, and the kids want feeding, and the dog's playing up, and, you know, the goldfish is doing somersaults and and all that kind of thing. And you want me to be present.
Well, I suppose those things can't be solved in this present moment. They're out of the control of what we can do in this present moment. So to be thinking about those things and you know, but perhaps I wonder because perhaps by talking about those things it could actually help alleviate, you know, if you've got those things trickling away in your mind, being in the connection with someone, having that, you know, presence and talking things through could help someone. So yeah, I guess there's different ways in which you can connect, and perhaps it could help to talk to someone if they're worried about things. But that is the expression, isn't it? That's actually an example of how it can help to express. And expression is something I've been really thinking about recently. It's such an important thing, because it's like releasing energy.
Yeah, it is. And, where we're talking about the spoken word here, listeners, let's not underestimate the power of the written word either. There's a almost cliched offering around writing being very cathartic, and it is, because isn't it true that when we're concentrating, let's use that word, or present in the moment of writing something, capturing our thoughts and putting it on paper, that for me probably certainly equal to, the thing is with the spoken word, we can say words that, why did I call that a pink elephant when actually it's a green giraffe? We can get our words wrong. And as you know, listeners, more recently, and I say more recently, probably 500 plus episodes, not just recently, I say the wrong words, and I just laugh at that because but we do that. I think it's easier with a written word because we can just scribble it out. Nobody's actually any of the wiser. Or if we're on a computer, we just delete it and then put in the right word. But obviously with the spoken word, once it's said, it's said. And we can say, well, I'm sorry, Rebecca, I didn't really mean to say that. And if that's, kind of more hurtful, stroke emotional, very difficult to pull it back, isn't it? Whereas if we write somebody a letter, kind of, either praising or not praising, it's like, oh, okay, maybe that was a bit over the top. Either way, we can delete it before we send it. So, I just use this example, listeners, to say how powerful, this is why people keep journals, isn't it? Because they use this word loosely, but dump their thoughts, their emotions on paper. You hear this a lot with people that's had breakups. I think the Moody Blues with the record Nights in White Satin, there's a line from that iconic record. It was the first single I ever bought, by the way, which has got no bearing on this conversation at all, but whatever, it's a part of conversation. But there's a line in there that says, letters I've written, never meaning to send. And you dump that emotion about how much you love that person, how much I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. But it's just that expression, and you use the word, in my humble opinion, earlier on, that release, because it brings in this whole question of energy. And of course, as humans, as beings, we're energy. And if we don't release that toxic energy, that, it festers. And that's why we become ill. So that's why I always encourage people to, have a real confidence, somebody that you can talk to, and you can put anything on the line. It is so, so, so critical. And that's scary. That's scary to put your faith, your trust, your belief in, for me in my life, just one person. That's scary. But the dividends it pays to be able to say, look, I know I'm going to be able to laugh, cry, do whatever without judgment, in that safe space and that deepest intimacy. Any thoughts about that, Rebecca? Because all of a sudden this conversation now about being in the moment's gone to a whole new different level.
Yeah, I think it's so important to have that space, and people in your life, or that one person, as you say, because there's all of the layers of ourselves, and I'm really in sharing that, because we've got so many different there's so much depth to us as humans, and we often are presenting if it was an iceberg, we'd be presenting a bit of a tip of the iceberg to the majority of people, but actually there's so much going off underneath the surface. And by suppressing any of that down, I completely agree with when you do suppress things, when you don't express them through whatever form, journaling, a fantastic way to express, then I really believe that creates toxicity somehow in the body, that's that suppressed energy. I think it's really important to have people to talk to, or have someone to talk to about anything. I think that because then you have someone that can hold space for you without that judgment. And if you can have that, that's really special. You can have it with yourself, with the journaling and with, and I think that's great. But it's very important to have people as well, because we are in a world with people. So, to have that connection, to have that person, that safe space, can help you to feel less alone in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've found through personal experience, as well as kind of researching this, listeners, is that person can give you objectivity, because he or she's not in your shoes. I mean, there's a great deal of empathy that's required, so I'm not just kind of suggesting, just go out and find somebody that, okay, he or she can be my sounding board. It actually doesn't work that way. In fact, from my experience, it works in a way that it's a gift. That gift has been presented, this relationship that you co-create between you based on the deepest intimate trust. And at times, that can actually often entail tough love, because I think that person actually becomes a reflection of yourself, empathizes with you to such a deep, deep level, which actually might appear totally contradictory. How does this person know me so well? Actually, and I've used this phrase before, I feel like they know me better than I know myself, because they're not in that kind of, that goldfish bowl that we get trapped in our own world. And I think sometimes it just needs that somebody to lend a gentle hand into the bowl and lift that goldfish out into a bigger pond, or even a sea or an ocean, just to say, actually, step out of that space. So there's a whole mixed bag of this stuff, isn't there, about being in the moment. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the time we've got the conscious mind, and then we've got the subconscious mind and the unconscious. So a lot of the patterns that are playing out in our lives that we're unconscious of, other people around us can see that, or if we've got that dynamic with someone, that closeness with someone, they can often see that much more clearly than we can, because we're unconscious of it. That it's called the shadow for a reason, because it's in the dark. We're not actually aware of it. So by having that mirror of that someone, can just plant a seed here and plant a seed there, if it needs that approach, or as you say, that tough love, sometimes that's really needed in that situation, for that person to actually become conscious of, I've been doing that right, okay. And then we become more aware, so our awareness expands from that mirror. So yeah, it's really interesting, because I think that a lot of the time there are things that we do in our life that we aren't, it's always a process, isn't it, of kind of becoming conscious of something, and then another thing, a couple of months later you become conscious of that, and then it's like, right, have we do that? And so it's this ever evolving process, but it's so, it's really beautiful to have someone that can gently help you to see yourself, really.
And when we speak about the cathartic nature of writing, it's not just writing either, isn't it? It's not just the spoken word. I mean, there's so many, and I know this is very close to your own heart, Rebecca, but this expression of art in whatever form it takes, for some people that'll be through the medium of sport, for others it'll be dance, through others it'll be, creative writing, whatever it is. There's this whole myriad of this medium to self-express, isn't there? Any thoughts around, for you? I mean, I've got the benefit of knowing what the answer is, but share with us, if you will, around some of your forms of expression.
Well, for most of my life, it's been art. So from a young age, I would express through painting and drawing and collage and different sorts of forms of art. And I mean, lots of different ones I've kind of used throughout my life, but more recently I've been expressing through dance. And I found that so powerful, because there's something in dance where you release, to be able to really fully be in the moment, you have to release all self-consciousness. And that's something that I find a challenge. I'm, often feeling like I'm quite self-conscious. I've identified, I guess, as someone that's been quite shy during my life. So to be able to fully be immersed in the moment and to fully let go, it's something dance is enabling me to go through that process physically, and mentally and emotionally at the same time. They're all intertwined. So yeah, but I think this finding an outlet is really key in being able to express. And I feel a lot of the time in society, there's always like I feel like there's a pressure for there to be a reason to do something. We're on this a lot of the time, this need to do things to achieve, to have success, to grow, to be fast, to be better, to be, and there's actually really a beautiful opportunity just to do something, just to do it, just to express, just to experience, just to feel, just to be in the moment, rather than doing it for any particular reason as such. Although I am saying the reason is to express. So, I don't know.
I'm just trying to think, listeners. There was a song that was it Sun-Kissed? Something. It was it was kind of a guy talking through the philosophy of life. And one of the lines from that song was, do at least one thing every day that scares you. Because that being in the moment, isn't it true that when we're in the moment of every day, whatever the situation is, there's something that, we shy away from, don't want to do that, don't want to do that, whatever that may be. And I think there again, it's having that kind of confidence and share it and trust with somebody to say, look, this is presenting itself, and I really, for whatever reason, I'm not comfortable with it. And I've used the analogy many times before, listeners, as you know, it's akin to, and this is my own, so maybe I've got to be careful what I say here, because people might hold me to this, but it's that proverbial diving board and jumping into the cold water. You imagine standing on that, and people then are saying, well, actually, you've got a fear of heights, so you don't want to be on the diving board in the first place, by the way. And this is where, our mind takes over with fear. When you get in that pool, that pool is freezing cold. So you've got like a double fear. And this is actually a reflection of what happens in life, isn't it? Usually with the stories we tell ourselves, because, you're standing there full of fear on this diving board because you don't like heights. And you've got this belief system, well, I'm not really a swimmer anyway, so I don't know why I'm doing this. And then the mind's saying, yeah, and it's December, so I bet the water's freezing. And we conjure up all this story in our mind, don't we, before we've even done anything. Yeah. And that's, but that actually having the courage and that arm around the shoulder of that confidant. And from my experience, it usually is one person. That one person, we can have, I've used before, as you know, listeners, this example of the dartboard. And right at the center of that dartboard is that soulmate, that twin flame, that conflict, call it what you will. And then that kind of escalates out to, there's other people that's important in our life, and that's why they're on the dartboard. But they're all playing a different part within the dartboard. Yeah. So any thoughts on that one, Rebecca?
Yeah, well, just going back to the diving board thing, I think this is going to sound a bit paradoxical, because we were talking originally about being in the moment, but for me, what that's brought up is the importance of zooming out, and actually, because when you're in the okay, for example, using the example of the diving board, when you're at the top and you're thinking about the cold water and things, if you zoom out a bit and actually know how you're going to feel once you've dived, that release of everything that goes along with that, and the feeling and the achievement and the growth. So if you can kind of, does that make sense? Like that zooming out of knowing actually what the benefit is, the reason that you're doing it, the bigger picture, if you like. So yeah, and the dartboard analogy, absolutely. I think that's great to think about it, for want of a better word, but to see it as like that, because it's true, there are the different people in your life that play the different roles, and it does kind of center into one person as being the kind of core confidant, and then the other people in your life have the different roles and different parts that they play.
But they're on the dartboard, and that's okay, isn't it? That's okay. Yeah, wow, what a fascinating conversation. I feel what a fascinating conversation. As we start to bring things towards a close, Rebecca, we're starting to put our stuff on social media, and I think we've got a YouTube channel. I say we, being World Game Changers. There's a small matter of quite exciting YouTube channel, isn't it? You want to tell us in the moment, of course? Do you want to tell us all about that?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a YouTube channel on for World Game Changers. It's World Game Changers. So if you go onto YouTube and have a look, we'll have lots of podcast episodes on there being released and getting updated. And there's lots of exciting things to come, because we've got projects happening, with the legs and the lips. So life enhancing projects, life enhancing goals. So there'll be lots of content coming soon to showcase and to raise awareness about what we're doing, as well as the podcast episodes. So we'd really, really appreciate your support. If you could subscribe, if you feel inclined to the YouTube channel, it would be really, really appreciated. And give us some comments, if you like. If you want to share what your thoughts are on the episodes, give us a like. We'd really appreciate it. So yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting. And we've also got the small matter of a website as well, have we not?
We do indeed. So worldgamechangers.org. Just hop on there and have a little look. We've got lots of incredible content on there to dive into, and we've got now, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, how, what, why on the homepage.
We won't split ears.
No.
We won't split it. Let's bit of tough love here, listeners. A bit of tough love from Ms. Wheele. No, the order's not quite right, but hey, who cares? Does it really matter?
Anyway, a great synopsis, or probably not the right word either.
It matters not.
Anyway, maybe that's just an invitation to go have a look for yourself, and take a good look through the website and see what it's all about. And if you want to contact us, I believe there's a contact form, and there's ways to get involved. Sign up to the newsletter. We have often, I think we're going to be looking at workshops and courses, and we've got monthly meetings and things. Sometimes we open them up to the public, and so lots of ways to get involved if you feel that you would like to. So we'd love to have you.
Superb. Yeah. And listeners, what a beautiful way to close this podcast episode out, with Rebecca at the end there, fumbling and bumbling her words a bit, but humorously we embrace that. Because isn't that a reflection of each and every one of us in every moment of every day? We get things, or our self-judgment says we get things wrong. But actually, there is no right, there is no wrong. There's just the learning. And like we've just done there, laugh at it, embrace it, play with it, be creative with it. And that's, for me, that's what makes, life so beautiful.
Yeah, embrace the full spectrum of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Rather than that, got the words wrong. Oh, Rebecca, you're a director. You should know better. It's like, what? Shut up. Anyway, listeners, on that humorous note, we're going to bring things to a close and sign off the way I always do by saying, remember, the world's changing. How will you respond?
Thanks very much for listening to this World Game Changers podcast episode. Hopefully you found it interesting and helpful. Drop a line to Paul at worldgamechangers.org with any thoughts or questions you may have, and he'll be more than happy to respond. Remember, the world's changing. How will you respond?